Hello everybody, I am glad to see you again on my channel, and today we will check how we can resolve exercise which is called reverse linked list. It's of easy type, so it should not be a very difficult one. And now let's check what we are given. You are given the head of a single linked list, reverse the list and return its new head. And below we have some examples, so where we have a linked list with elements 1, 2, 3 and null, and we need to revert this linked list to be 3, 2, 1 and null. So I hope that the condition is pretty clear for you. And now I wanna show you and visualize how this algorithm works. So let's take a look to this diagram. So we have a linked list with elements 1, 2 and 3, and let's visualize the algorithm, so how we need to implement our code in case to resolve this task. So because in that case we have a linked list which every bucket indicates only to the next bucket. It means that we can just iterate from the beginning to the end of our linked list, so we cannot do it vice versa. So we cannot start to iterate from the last element to the first element, because if we would have this possibility, it would be a little bit easier to solve this task. But in our case, we just point to the next element, not to the previous one. So what should we do? So first of all, we need to create a previous variable. This variable will indicate to the previous element, and initially the value for this variable will be null. And in next steps we will see how we use this variable, but now the next step which we are doing, we create another variable which is called in our case current node, which will point to the first element initially. Yeah, so we use this element in order to store the current element in the current iteration. And the next thing which we need to do is to create another variable, which in our case is called temporary node. And because we will change the link to the next element for the current node, in our case right now it's the first element, so we will change the pointer to the previous element. Yeah, and initially it will be null. We need somewhere to store these buckets, yeah, because we will need in the future to iterate also through these elements, and also for them to change their next element. So in order not to lose these elements, we need to store them somewhere. So for that we create this temporary node variable, which will point to the next element. Yeah. The next step which we are doing, we change the link. So initially the next element for that bucket, for the current node, was bucket with value 2, but right now it's indicate to the previous element, which right now is null. Okay, cool. The next step which we will need to do is to change the previous variable. Yeah, so initially it was null. Now the previous element is this bucket, the bucket with value 1. And also we change current node variable to the next element, so to the 2. Yeah, so we need to do the same logic, the same steps which we have done previously, but now for this linked list. So what we are doing, so we repeat the same process. So initially we need to create a temporary node in order to store the next element, because now we will change the link to the next element for bucket with value 2, and because of that we need somewhere to store this this bucket. So what we are doing now, a bucket with value 2 is not pointing to bucket with value 3, it points to the previous value, which is right now 1. And the next step, we need to change the previous variable not to point to this bucket, because right now the previous element for 3 will become 2. So we change the previous variable to the 2 and change the current node variable to point to our next element. And again, repeat all the steps again. So we create a temporary node variable which will point to the null, because the next element for 3 is null. The next step, we need to change the next element for the current node, which need to point to the previous value, which in our case is 2. So we do this thing. Now 3 will point to the previous element, and we change the current node to point to the temporary node, which was null. And doing that, in the end we will have our linked list, but it will be reversed. So that's the visualization of our algorithm and steps which we need to do. So now let's try to implement this algorithm in code. So first of all, what we need to do is to create a class which will represent our node, because in Java we don't have any structure which can initially to represent it. So let's create it ourselves. It will be a class. So let's create a class. We will call this class node, and this code will have actually this node will have two variables, two parameters, let's say. One will be for value, and the second one will be for the next node for the current one. So let's do it. Let's say that this node will store values of type int, and the next element also is a node, so it should be of type node. Next node. Okay, perfect. And now let's create two constructors. One will be with one parameter, with parameter value. So let's do it. Node. Node value will take our parameter value, and it will be initialized with value which is coming from our constructor. And by default, next node will be null. Okay, perfect. And let's create another constructor. Here we will have two variables, two parameters. One will be for the value and second will be for the next node. And we will initialize our value with a value from the parameters, and the next node with node from the, let's call it also next node. It will be a little bit clearer, I think, with next node from the parameters. So perfect. We created a class which represents our node. It will store a value, and it will store the link, the address to the next node. Cool. And now let's create our method which will reverse the linked list. So let's do it. Public static. It will return node so it will return the head of a reverted linked list, and let's call it reverse. Okay, and like an argument it will take the node, so the head of the initial linked list. Let's call it head. Okay, now let's create a variable which we will call previous nodes. Initially it will be null, and also we need to create current node, which will store the current node in the iteration. So initially it will be equal to head, and now we need somehow to iterate through our linked list. For that I will use a while loop, and here we need to put a condition. What condition we will have? So while current node is not equal to null, which means that we haven't reached the end of linked list, we will iterate through this linked list. And inside this loop I want to create the temporary variable temp node, let's say, and here we will store the next node for the current one. So we take our variable current node and we take the next nodes. Why we are doing so? Because right now current node, we will change the address to the next element, and it will be equal to the previous node. Initially it's equal to null, and if we will not do this, if we will not store the next nodes for the current node, we will lose them and we will not be able to use them in the next iterations. So here we have already mentioned changed the address, so now current node is not pointing anymore to next nodes, for example 2 and 3. It's pointing to the previous element, and in the first iteration previous is equal to null. Why so? Because the first node will become the last node when we will reverse the linked list. Now we need to change the value for the previous node, and it will be current node. And the current node will become the temporary nodes which we have sent previously. Temporary node. And in the end, we need to return the prev. So what is stored in the previous variable. Why so? Because when we will reach this condition, current node is equal to null, it means that we have reached the end of our linked list, and in that case the previous variable will contain the last node from our initial linked list, and the last node from our initial linked list will become the head of a reverted linked list. So that's the solution. I hope it's clear for you. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments, and we will see in the next videos. Bye.